everyone, and welcome to another episode of Speak, Film, and Enter, a podcast where we review and rank movies. I'm Nate.
And I'm Dylan.
And I'm Adam.
Today, we are reviewing the latest from the legendary director Guillermo del Toro, his stop-motion remake of Pinocchio, which has been made a zillion times, but why not once more? With a very different take on the story, we are happy to say. Adam, would you like to tell the people what it's about?
I will. Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. During the rise of fascism in Mussolini's Italy, a wooden boy brought magically to life struggles to live up to his father's expectations.
So
quite a different stage.
You are thinking, I saw Pinocchio as a kid, and I don't remember any fascists or
Italians
or the like. That's because he made it different enough to actually make this worth making, I think. I mean, we got the horribly received Zemeckis Disney live action remake straight to Disney Plus in September with Tom Hanks as Geppetto, and that was just another feeling of why?
Yeah.
Do we need this at all? The answer seemed to be a resounding no. But with this, I mean, first off, it's Del Toro, so pretty much everything he does is interesting and has his own sort of stamp on it.
Yeah, his fingerprints are all
and
over
I think especially something like this, where he's really kind of made a career and sort of his signature of kind of children growing up or with a little bit of magic and some type of fascist or Cold War or militant backdrop to this fable or fairy tale type story that he's telling with Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, Shape of Water, set during the Cold War in the US. This just seemed to fit instantly when he said he was taking Pinocchio and dropping it in fascist Italy. I thought, yeah, why not? You've done this successfully many times before, so let's see if you can do it again. And I think for the most part, he succeeds.
Yeah, I'll say so. I think what sets this one apart from some of the other Pinocchios, as you said, there's a lot of them out there, is just this is stop motion. It's a different realm. It's a different type of movie, and it is beautiful. Every character, every nook, every tiny little detail is paid attention to, and it shines through for sure. I think that's the strongest part of this movie for me, was just how cool it looked and how interesting everything is.
Yeah, visually it was fantastic, and it definitely kept me engaged because, like you said, Adam, I can always just appreciate the detail and the textures of every single thing. Yeah, I loved the aesthetic, the look, the character design, all of that. And mostly, I guess I said this when we left, and I still feel the same way. I feel like for a big screen version of Pinocchio, directed by Guillermo del Toro and using stop motion, I feel like this was about as good as a Pinocchio feature length could have been. Going in, I was a little, I really didn't know what to expect. And to, set the table here for the viewers, it was Saturday, and the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers were about to play their hated rival Iowa in a must-win game. And me and Nate and Adam were all in a car to go see Pinocchio as the game started. And I was just like, what is going on right now? What is my life?
Why have we done this?
This is what we're doing instead. And you know what? And I don't regret at all that we went and saw it, because it was about as good as I think it could have been. I had a great time. I laughed a little. There was some fun songs. Mostly it just looked incredible. And I liked the subtle changes or even big changes that he made to the original story to kind of give it more depth and thematic, value. And I had a great time, and the game ended up being horrible anyways. So much better that we were letting Guillermo entertain us for 2 hours than the Gopher football team.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. This is, I think, the best looking animated movie since Wolfwalkers, and one of the best stop motion movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I always get excited for any type of prominent, good looking, non 3D animated movie that comes out now, because all the American studios like Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks, Illumination with their Despicable Me, Minions nonsense,
Mhm.
and a few others. They just all look varying qualities of the same,
Yeah.
essentially. And I've talked about this before, where those movies can look really good, but there's just something about a 2D or especially a stop motion animated movie where there's just so much more heart coming out of just the imagery.
Yep.
Where it just feels like, why are we trying to make, like, you can make this look like anything. Why is it an obsession of these studios to try to make everything look as real as possible?
Mhm.
We can do, like, this movie looks incredible. Just even the design for Pinocchio. I remember there's a fun sort of bit in this movie where, I mean, Geppetto's building things. And I remember just thinking while we were watching it that, like, wow, animating a character building stuff looks really difficult. And I thought, well, they also just had to build all this anyway.
Yeah.
And it all looks so good. Pinocchio looks cool with the way that, like, kind of the end of the tree of the stump is like sort of his hair.
Yep. Yeah.
Also, like, that's just really well done. And the town looks incredible, and kind of all the circus performers and just the other characters.
And there's an element that is new to this that I won't ruin, but I felt that stuff all looked incredible too.
The kind of sort of
supernatural part of this. I thought that all looked really cool too. Like, even when we went to there, I was like, oh, this is even a step up. Like, damn. Like,
yeah, absolutely. And so he does take this in directions that, if you're only familiar with the Disney animated classic from, I want to say, 1940. I mean, that's kind of the definitive version of Pinocchio to American audiences. And it's a movie I love. And I'm glad that he was able to make this his own thing. And like you mentioned too, the music is, for the most part, I think, really good. There are a couple songs that really stand out. Mostly they're kind of like 45-second to a minute long, sort of little character moments that work well. But there's one song kind of to a montage in the middle that Pinocchio sings that's really sweet. And then there's a running joke about one of the characters not ever being able to get past the first line of their song before they're interrupted. And then kind of closing the joke or finishing it, you get to hear that song during the credits. I thought that was done really, really well. And we all just, like, had that stuck in our heads for like an hour after the movie ended. The song during the credits, that was really good. And then, of course, just the phenomenal voice cast, which Del Toro always has stacked casts in his movies. And this is a lot of sort of his favorites or people that he's worked with before. We've got Ron Perlman. I don't know if he's worked with David Bradley before, but he voices Geppetto. Ewan McGregor as Sebastian J. Cricket. Very different. And Tilda Swinton as, it says, a wood sprite. You could also call it a sphinx. They're technically two different characters. Tim Blake Nelson is in this. John Turturro. Christoph Waltz. And
Bern Gorman.
I just wanted to say this for last.
Gorman, who always plays bad guys and voices
bad
guys.
Very well.
Great to see him show up. And I just wanted to say this for last. Kate Blanchett is currently the leader in the clubhouse for Best Actress right now for her performance as Lydia Tarr in Tar. She voices in this movie a monkey named Spazatura, who just speaks like a monkey.
He just grunts.
And see, like, just both sides of Kate Blanchett. She's one of my favorite actresses of all time. She's one of the best there is. And to see such a serious performance like Tar, and then like 3 weeks later, she's just a monkey in a stop motion Pinocchio. It's fantastic. I loved it so much. And I knew that she was the monkey going in, and I think you two didn't. And then you looked it up and saw the voice cast at the end, and one of you just, I think it was Adam.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, because I was trying to place certain names, like certain people. I was like, well, that's very clearly Christoph Waltz, and that's very clearly like Ron Perlman. But like, who else we got? Like, I recognized Tim Blake Nelson after I looked at the name. I recognized David Bradley after I was like, oh yeah, what's his name? It's just the guy from Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
He's Walder Frey from Game of Thrones.
And Argus Filch from Harry Potter. So like, I knew a couple of those, but I couldn't quite remember the name. And then we looked it up. We're like, it's like Kate Blanchett's in this movie. And I was like, who's Spaz? Is that the? You're like, that's the monkey.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess one question I had for you guys, because this crossed my mind while watching it. Animated movies are in this country at least, just generally viewed as kids' movies.
Mhm.
And then if you're lucky and they do it well, there's stuff in there for adults, but they're kind of the target audience for animated movies for almost every studio in the US is just children.
Yeah.
Where do you think this falls? Do you think this is something kids could like, or do you think it's a more adult leaning animated movie? Where do you think it kind of falls on that spectrum?
I think it is a little more adult. Like we recently reviewed the new Disney movie Strange World. That
Mhm.
one is playing to a younger audience, I feel like, than this one is. That one is silly and cartoonish, and adults are going to be kind of bored by the characters because they're all very just straightforward, not a lot of depth there. This is like its own. I mean, it's much more. I know. I think artistically, like to look at visually. I mean, the whole thing with Strange World is that it's supposed to look amazing, and it's like the newest CGI techniques that Disney has. And yeah, there were some parts that looked really cool in that movie, but this movie, start to finish, blows it away. And I feel
Yeah.
like you kind of have to be of a certain age to really appreciate like how finely constructed it is, and then also just the fact that it's set around fascism,
Yeah.
just kind of the depths that
Mussolini
they take
shows
to-
up at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mussolini straight up shows up. I mean, the depths that they go to with the Geppetto character and his kind of past, and just I just think it's a little deeper. So I'd say, it doesn't feel like it's for little kids. Like you're just gonna bring a bunch of 5 or 6 or 7-year-olds. This feels like a little older than that.
Yeah.
Kids that can comprehend themes and kind of a character arc, and also just appreciate how it looks and what goes into that.
Yeah, it's artistically dark as well as like thematically darker I
Darker
should
than
say.
you'd think.
Darker
for a
than you
Pinocchio
think
movie.
for Pinocchio.
I think like if you think your kid can handle Coraline,
Yes.
then I
Yeah.
think they'll probably also be into this, or at least be old enough for
Yeah,
this.
I also
Yeah.
was gonna say, like, because this is one of the more recent stop motion I've seen that I liked. If you liked Kubo and the Two Strings, I feel like this is another one
Mhm.
that's kind of in the same alley. This like it deals with similar darker themes, but I feel like the animation in this one's better. But that that mirrors with the themes being a little bit more adult.
Yeah, I definitely think you can see him at times kind of trying to thread the needle
Mhm.
between these adult themes and also making it entertaining for kids, or
Mhm.
maybe just simplifying the like fascist overtones that are going on
Yeah.
throughout the story, where there are moments where it feels like he's about to like hit something like really deep that maybe only adults are going to get, but then he
Yeah.
kind of like dials it back just a bit so that kids can understand kind of what's
Yeah.
going on as well with in regards to fascism and that type of stuff.
Mhm.
So I think the movie has some inconsistencies in that regard, but it's always because it's trying to walk this very
Yeah,
thin
it's in service of
tightrope.
that.
And I think I enjoyed it, but I could see people watching this and thinking it's too childish for adults or maybe too mature for kids. I can see people
yeah.
thinking it doesn't thread that needle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think that was maybe just kind of my one little issue where I felt like, okay, they didn't do this part of it perfectly,
Yeah.
but we already talked about all the stuff that it does really well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd agree. I think it try all of the stuff where it tries to peel back or tries to pull back and tries to help the kids understand. It's just all of that stuff is done in service of the audience and so that it reaches both sets, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with it, but yeah, it's a little like it goes a little bit of this, it does a little bit of that. I think the stuff with Ewan McGregor's character Sebastian J. Cricket, like that's the heart, and I think that's the really well done stuff that like kids will understand what he means when he's talking or the sentiments behind that. So I think it's palatable to children. It's just some of it might be a little bit more.
All right. Anything else, or should we get to the stars?
I think we can get into the stars.
We'll get
Let's do
into the stars. We'll be right back.
Okay. Who would like to go first?
Yeah, one of you guys can go first.
I'll go first.
Okay.
I am giving this movie a 3.5. I think it's really good. I think the ending kind of felt a little unsatisfying. It gets a little silly at times, and then a little, I don't know. The ending just felt a little off. That might change on rewatch, but I mean, I think for the most part, he achieves everything that he's going for. It's really funny at times. It's got good songs. And again, this maybe the best looking movie of the year, period.
Yeah.
And I just think kind of sometimes tonally it gets a little inconsistent, and that was a slight drawback for me, but definitely not to the level where I felt disappointed or anything. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I can go next. I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well. Sorry. I'm going to give it a 3.5 as well because it's so strong in the visuals. I honestly don't remember the original Pinocchio at all. So some of the stuff that happens, I was like, what is going on in this movie? Like the giant fish? And I was like, where did that come from? I just didn't remember that it happened.
Yeah, it's a whale in the original.
So it's just a little bit, it caught me a little bit off guard. So I would like to see it again, and maybe it goes up a half star just so I'm more familiar with the story and understand a little bit more of what's going on. But Pinocchio is Pinocchio, but he's a little bit more annoying than I remember him being. And I was like, boy, this is frustrating sometimes to like just stop, just like handle your shit and move, you know what I mean? But it's a kid's story, so I was out of my element. I liked it. I thought the music was fun, and obviously the end scene that we alluded to, the song during the credits was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I love the performances. Ewan McGregor was great. And then I think probably the next best one was Ron Perlman. He's always fun. So I think this is like his 8th or 9th time working with Guillermo del Toro. So he's always going to get a good performance out of Ron. So
who was Ron Perlman again? The fascist dad?
Podesta, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought David Bradley did a really good job too as Geppetto.
Yeah. I also should say the kid who plays Pinocchio, Gregory Mann. This is his third. This is his third film or thing in show business. I thought he was incredible. I couldn't place the voice. Obviously, didn't know what else he's been in. I thought he did wonderful. I mean, the character can be a little, frustrating or whatever you want to call it at times, but that's not his fault. That's the character, and he played it perfectly.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how he starts off and it's like, oh man, he's kind of a lot, but that's like part of the character is that he is like a lot at first, and then as time goes on, he calms down and becomes, more well behaved. Yeah. All right, so on to me. I'm going to go a little higher than both you guys. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. I thought this was great. I think I'm using the what was it trying to do scale for this movie. And I just think for what it was, I don't know if there's any way that it could have gotten to like a 5 for me. And I mean, a 4.5 even probably would have been really, I just think that this was kind of the ceiling for like this. And I felt like it was as good as it could have been. I really had a good time. Visually, it was engaging and just always fascinating. I liked all the characters, like the voices behind the characters. I mean, there's like a joke in there that we won't ruin, but we've already referenced it like multiple times hanging out since seeing it. That was great.
A great bit with a sea captain.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I thought that was great. I mean, Kate, really what takes it from 3.5 to 4 is Cate Blanchett as for, and combined with Ewan McGregor as why can't
Sebastian J. Cricket.
Sebastian J. Crickets, because when it first started, Ewan McGregor sometimes he's almost a little too heartwarming and like nice. Like sometimes his shtick wears a little thin for me. And I was worried that when he's like the first character we meet, I'm like, oh man, is it going to be like a ton of Ewan McGregor narration? And is that going to like take me out? But I love like what they did with his character where he's around. He's not like the main focus, but he'll bop in, he'll bop out. He has some good kind of heartfelt moments. Then he has a couple great like comedic moments. I don't know. I just think that this was really good / great. I think that Guillermo did a really good job. And I'm realizing now, I was looking through my Letterboxd, and this style of animation kind of has like a built-in floor for me of like 3.5, 4. It's just so amazing to look at, and it makes the whole movie experience that much better.
That much more engaging. Yeah.
So I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. Definitely one of the biggest surprises of the year for me.
I think I'm going to agree with you that this is probably the best this movie or this type of thing, this Pinocchio can be.
Yeah,
So
and
in that regard alone, like it probably deserves maybe a 4.
Yeah, I
But
mean, if he would have maybe committed really like to like it's for adults, then like who knows where it could have ended up, and then like
Mhm.
Right.
maybe. But I just think for everything he was trying to do and still having it be palatable to kids and kind of staying true to the original, giving it the fascism twist, just everything he was trying to do, I think he did a really good job.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, who would have guessed Guillermo del
Who'd
Toro?
have thought Guillermo del Toro would make
Yeah.
a good movie? Huh? Not us. Certainly not us.
Yeah, beyond Crimson Peak, I pretty much love everything that he's done at this point.
Same. Yeah, I mean, he's made like 2 of my favorite movies of all time. So
Yeah, yeah. All right. You're of course referencing Hellboy and Hellboy 2.
absolutely.
Yeah, I knew
Yes,
it. You just won't shut up
definitely.
about those movies.
Yeah.
Hellboy
Pan's
and
Labyrinth
Pacific
and Devil's
Rim.
Backbone, just
No.
for the people who have not listened to other episodes.
Yes. All right. Well, yeah. That was a fun episode, guys. Is there anything else that we want to say about Pinocchio, or is it time to put a wrap on the show?
It's time to put a wrap on the show, I believe.
And whose turn is it?
It's
Mine.
Nate's. Oops, Nate's.
Adam.
There you go. Point
there we go.
at the right person, Adam.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, Nate,
Take
take
it
us
away.
away.
It is in pain that we find the meaning of life.